So where do we want to start? Has anyone got any ideas for kicking this off?
Well, I think talking to students about difference versus diversity and finding out what their meaning of both of those things are. I think it could be the case that they don't think there is much difference between the two, but clearly there is. So I think it's important to for them to understand.
What does diversity mean? What does a 10-year-old think diversity means?
Perhaps you could even go further and break that up into smaller groups as well, and then come all back into the centre and get the different opinions of the different smaller groups within the class.
Yeah, so I guess the underlying key is we really need to reinforce to them that difference and diversity, it's all about being different rather than not being better or worse. So
exactly.
Establish that.
That difference is a contrary view or belief. So that's probably an adult definition. So putting it into those words the kids can understand, and that diversity is an acceptable but dissimilar view or belief, and then maybe give them the activity that they can try to think of some examples of different and diverse.
And so I thought maybe even if you sort them into groups in even just their favourite sport, and say, well, everyone's got a different favourite sport, so that means we have a diverse range of sports. You know,
that's right.
Try and simplify it to something that simple as that's what they mean. You know, these are all different. But that means, as a collective group, it's a diverse range of things.
And neither is better or worse. It's a strong point, isn't it, to emphasise that one isn't better than the other.
Different.
Yeah.
Well, I think bringing the positive out as well, what we can benefit from different groups and diversity, rather than not.
That's right.
Okay.
Then for the next week or the next session would be difference and diversity as one versus deficiency. Perhaps some way to get it to them would be, do we label people, say, because of their occupation? So, for example, is it hard to believe that a school cleaner could have a lot of money in the bank? And on the flip side, if somebody drives an expensive car, would you assume that that person's a business person or that that person doesn't have a job?
I've got a bit of a controversial idea with the blue-eyed, brown-eyed experiment that we've seen done before. I know it has been done in a classroom setting, so we wouldn't be breaking new ground. It has been tried before, but that's a really unique way to create that deficiency or deficit for no reason, other than just the colour of their eyes. So it can be pretty confronting, but I think it's a pretty unique way to have, particularly those kids that are on the complete opposite end of the deficiency scale, or that actually really experience it.
I thought that we could even put it to the students, and because we are talking about race, but we're also going to be bringing up things like religious beliefs and cultural beliefs, that if they could imagine being a Muslim lady with her face covered, like we discussed, that because of her religious or cultural beliefs, do we see her as being a less than or an unfortunate or perhaps even a bit scary? That's quite hard to deal with. But is it possible to see beyond that, and that this lady could be a wife or a mother just like these children have?
I had a couple of ideas with the collective identities. I thought we could ask children to write down in point form, or even make up a poster or
PowerPoint.
Or a PowerPoint, exactly.
I love getting on those computers.
They certainly do. You take advantage of the technology. But to put into points what they see as their characteristics or their cultural characteristics, and the abilities that construct their identities, basically their gender, their interests,
so what makes
food
them
they
fit
eat.
into that group.
That's right. Yeah. And also ask about how symbols and rituals and places reflect their identities of different groups. So religious or cultural symbols, flags, family rituals, home tasks,
and
see what they see.
What they come up with.
Yeah.